You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is November 20th, 2023, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. Today, it'll be just me and the Knuckleheads. I consider myself one of them, too, talking about...
I was wondering when they said just me and the Knuckleheads, I was wondering who you're talking about, but okay, go ahead now.
There you go. Yeah, we're all Knuckleheads here. One for one and one for all.
Your picture's on the logo. So
there you go, yeah.
Emoji or whatever it's called.
I'll have to put a separate label for mine later. That's okay. We've got it. Actually, we got some really cool stuff to talk about today. So we're not going to have a guest, although we plan to have some guests coming up in the future. So look out for those. But we're actually going to talk. That what we've all been doing all this for, a libertarian won the presidency of Argentina. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about a lot of censorship issues. Osama bin Laden sort of second life on the internet. You know, who saw that coming? Disinformation wars, the government against you, and censoring your memes and everything else. And then issues of anti-Semitism on campuses and some of the censorship also related to that. And finally, our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, where we like to talk about something kind of funny or ridiculous that a politician or celebrity said. So let's jump right into this. James, maybe you could show the video, or invisible hand, James Just, by the way. That's our fourth Knucklehead, but he gets to be anonymous, and I just gave him up. But anyways, this is our invisible hand. Maybe you could bring up the visual. So we have the win for Milei in Argentina. It just happened. This is sort of breaking news. We started seeing this stuff overnight. So Milei is he is an out there libertarian. He's not like, this isn't something where he just says, hey, I have libertarian leanings. This guy wants to end the Fed in Argentina. So he's not pulling any punches. We'll talk about some of these issues, but he wants to dollarize there. So just get rid of their ability to mess with their own currency, which, is one of the great evils that governments can do in an economy. And we're kind of seeing a little bit of that in our economy too. They see it a lot worse in some of those economies. But he has won there. He's looking to make a lot of changes, but that's really one of the biggest ones, the idea that he wants to take away their ability to screw around with their own currency. And he wants to take a chainsaw to their government and just start lopping pieces off. And so, here he was campaigning with the chainsaw. This guy is an Austrian economist. So for those of you not sure what it means, you got the Austrian school is essentially let the market alone, maybe government in there just to establish private property rights, and then let the government sort most of this stuff out. So he's very, he's to the right of Milton Friedman, if left and right makes sense in this case. But that's who we're talking about here. And so we have a short little video I'm going to play too as well. And so James, maybe you could play the video real quick so we can actually see who this guy is and hear a little bit of his own words too. So he has just become Argentina's new president. He's planned to blow up the status quo and shutter their central bank. He'll end the Fed in Argentina, essentially. And here he is. It looks like at the victory party there at...
Somos nosotros. La libertad avanza. Los que venimos a dar la defensa contra los saqueadores de este sistema, que lo único que hace es beneficiar a los políticos ladrones.
52 years old, so hopefully we won't have any Biden moments coming in with him anytime soon. But essentially, the flame of 1776 is alive in Argentina. What do you guys think about this? This is, incredible.
Well, best of luck. It's a good laboratory. It's let's see what he does. I think it's going to be good for the country for sure. That's what I think. I mean, but it's, like I say, a good laboratory, and I'm hopeful that they will, come out of their economic slump because of it.
Well, I don't want to burst anybody's bubble here, but politicians talk a good game, which they do, and politicians on the right in particular. And I mean, we don't particularly call this guy on the right. He's more an acclaimed libertarian.
Well, and just to jump in there real quickly, and he's MAGA, but make Argentina great again.
Yes,
and he said that about himself. It's not, just every, people. But anyways, go ahead.
He's a MAGA Argentina. I don't know what his political affiliation, but he's MAGA, which is, to me, is great. Like I said, he talks a very good game. But one of the things that I think we should be very leery about is the fact that he wants to dollarize the economy. Okay, that's fine. But we have problems with our US dollar. We know the Fed is printing too much money here in the United States. So while he will be in a better position, if he could accomplish this, he'll be in a far better position. I mean, Argentina will be in a far better position in terms of managing inflation. But we are trending in the wrong direction on that very issue. So which is
maybe you should tie it to gold. Now, how about that? Now that would be awesome.
If he can do that, and if that is better, that will make Argentina better off. If that will make Argentina great again, more power to him. Yeah. But the one thing, I'm very skeptical about politicians who coming along and they're fighting entrenched interests. Trump tried to drain the swamp, quote unquote. He tried to drain the swamp, which was, to me, a very noble objective. But I don't think Trump really accomplished that goal. I don't think, are there any agencies that went away when Trump became president? I don't think so. He might have made a few changes here and a few changes there, but he was far away from his campaign rhetoric. This guy has a good start. He seemed to have a good support, a good base behind him, and I'm happy about that. But I don't want to get too far ahead of where we are at right now. I like what he's saying, but I am not sure that he could accomplish this, especially in Argentina, which have some very, very deep entrenched interests that will certainly want to fight him. The unions in particular, they are very strong in Argentina. So if he could break them, more power to him. But I will have to pray for him, quite frankly, because he has an uphill battle to fight. I'm not trying to burst anybody's bubble, but let's just keep our head. Let's keep our head on the ground before we start getting into the clouds.
Well, Leon, they would like to burst their inflationary bubble, which is part of the reason I think they elected him.
Fair enough. I will take that. Fair enough. Yes.
Yeah, I think Leon's bringing up a great point, in that he sounds precautionary optimistic.
Cautionary optimistic. Yes.
And you're absolutely right, Leon. It's easy to talk, but it's harder to actually go battle the opponents that he's going to have, like you say. So let's see what he does. Hopefully he'll do. That's another good point, bringing up Trump, and because that was on numerous occasions on the Tom Woods show, for example, the complaint for Tom and his guests repeatedly was how Trump was surrounding himself, for example, with a bunch of warmongers for his advisory staff on foreign affairs. And he had any number of good candidates to put in those positions that he just never did. So he lost the opportunity to really drain the swamp. You can't have people from the swamp as your close advisory team. If you want to drain the swamp, you can't hire those people. That's not draining anything. So
That's right.
Yeah. You gotta find a swamp guide who isn't a dweller of the swamp as well. but let me just jump in. I mean, I am all in on this because, and the reason is Trump was not intellectually coherent. I mean, he wasn't really anchored to anything. This guy is a Mises economist. I mean, this guy is principled. He literally is targeting the exact things, and he's saying the tough things. He's not like, Trump, where he's saying, yeah, we'll just keep on funding Social Security and we're not going to worry about all these things. This guy is literally saying, hey, look, we got to cut this stuff. We've got to take away our ability to inflate our own currency. And, one of the reasons why he's saying dollarize is because it's the most practical thing. It's not that the dollar is wonderful, but it's sort of like Peter Schiff talks about. It's the cleanest shirt in the dirty hamper, I guess, of currencies.
It's the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's just so even though the U.S. dollar is by far not a perfect vehicle, it is it is the easiest vehicle because everybody's using it. They don't have to establish any new kind of rules or anything else. You can just simply use the dollar, right? And there are other countries that are dollarized as well. But the big thing he realizes is that you cannot take away the government's power to grow government and just keep spending ad nauseum if you don't take away their power to print. And by doing that, he is putting shackles on the lawmakers in Argentina. And quite frankly, if we had some of those shackles, we couldn't get into as many wars as well, which I kind of wish we had a commodity-based currency here, which is, really what Tim was sort of alluding to. But, unfortunately, that's the gold standard of gold, of money. I don't know.
Right. They probably don't have enough gold, for one thing, in their on hand. So that's one reason probably why they probably couldn't do that. But they probably have enough dollars because those are easy to find. So and those are unlimited in supply, unlike gold. So,
well, hopefully not completely unlimited.
Oh yeah, well, that's completely unlimited. It's not tied to anything.
I hope not.
It's completely unlimited. The amount of dollars they can print.
Sure that they can print, but at the moment there is a limit on it. At least they're keeping a limit on it. Otherwise, we're all broke.
Seriously.
And Argentina cannot print dollars, so I guess they could counterfeit, but so they will not have any control over the value of the currency like they have with their own central bank. So that's a good thing. And if they do that, and then I just point out that a lot of other countries, China included, are buying gold a lot and hoarding gold because who knows, what they have in mind, but it may not be such a bad idea.
By the way, too, this guy has sort of a rock star appeal in this country. I mean, he literally played in a Rolling Stone tributes band, and he's I guess he's been a soccer player in his college days, it sounds like. So he's kind of a man of the people, sort of, and yet he's an economist, which sort of obviously it sort of makes you not of the people once you become an economist, I guess. The dismal science, but he is he's going to be really interesting to follow. So we're definitely going to keep our eyes on him. I'm sure you'll probably hear more about him in the coming days from all kinds of other agencies as well.
I don't want to be to dampen the enthusiasm for this guy. Okay, on paper he looks really good in terms of what he wants to do. My thing is, could he do it given the conditions in Argentina? Argentina didn't get here overnight. Argentina was once one of probably the most prosperous nation in South America. And they went from there, into democratic governments into military dictatorships, and they have gone in a death spiral ever since. I mean, this guy probably is the first ray of light at the end of a dark tunnel that we now seeing for Argentina. So I don't want to dampen the enthusiasm for this guy, but could he accomplish those things that he wants to accomplish given the situation on the ground in Argentina? I truly don't know. So I'll remain, as I think I've been established, I'll remain cautiously optimistic about his prospects.
Well, I think one of the things that kind of makes people stand up and consider things like liberty-minded ideas like, Ron Paul's in the Fed and other things like that is when you start getting over 100% annual inflation, and that's what they've been experiencing in Argentina. So, I mean, people are considering things that are kind of outside the normal box, which for them also was this duopoly that they had going on that was just digging them deeper in the hole. Sure. So I think that's kind of where people are going. They're just willing to try new things there. And it's sad. These shouldn't be considered new things. Unfortunately, that's liberty principles should be at least as old as Adam Smith, which is 1776, and unfortunately, it's taken a lot of people a lot of time to wake up to those.
It's funny they mentioned that kind of idea that these new wild, these radical changes that he wants to do is not so radical, people.
No, it's not. That's right.
Yeah. It seems to me much more radical to say, hey, I want to hand over all my liberty to some guy who claims he's going to be my leader, my shepherd, and he's going to do all kinds of wonderful things to me. That sounds radical to me. That sounds like somebody who's in a cult. And unfortunately, that's the norm nowadays.
although I would argue that's even less radical than the freedom idea. The freedom thing is new. I mean, it's new with our country, and it's a new idea that happened partially because of the Industrial Revolution and so on. But the idea that a top-down central planning committee or ruler of one kind is telling everybody what to do is as old as kingdoms, and that's really old. So you can go far back as you want, and that's the predominant method that people were governed, was by these small little entities at the top and telling everybody what to do and so on and so forth. And so really, freedom is a new idea, but it's not a radically new idea. That's all I was trying to say.
Well, but people, I guess, choosing the thug with the club, where before the thug with the club just told you to get in line. Nowadays, some people are choosing that. And what the hell's wrong with you?
Oh, for sure.
I don't mean you, Tim. I just mean, all those people.
You're talking about my liberal.
Yeah.
You see, the whole concept of the thug with the club, Jason, is that they don't mind, the left doesn't mind a thug with a club as long as he's using the club against the left's enemies. That's all. Yeah. They will choose the thug with the club. That's fine. That's no problem for them. As long as that club is being used to clubber people who the left consider enemies. That's all.
Well, speaking of thugs with clubs, it's probably time to move on to our next topic. And so Osama bin Laden, now, he's not the only thug with a club, but he's sort of one of them. So for those of you who aren't quite familiar with who he is, he was the mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks, Taliban kind of leader. I'm not sure if he was Taliban, but he was certainly hiding out there.
He was the head of Al-Qaeda.
Okay.
And the Taliban was hiding him in Afghanistan for a while. He did end up in Pakistan eventually, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so anyways, he masterminded those attacks that brought down the towers. But after the attacks happened, he put out a letter to the United States to explain why it was that he attacked. And of course, that letter was kind of suppressed at the time. It sounds like that's what I was hearing from Greenwald, and certainly that seems to be my recollection, because I don't recall hearing much about Osama's letter immediately after this happened in 9/11. All I remember hearing is about these terrible people who did this to us, and how we have to go get these evil guys over there. And in fact, that's when George Bush, I think, declared his axis of evil sometime around that time period too, that he was sort of, targeting our foreign policy against. But anyways, the letter is making a new round. So it's sort of like giving Osama a second life, because he was caught by the Obama administration. He was executed by a strike team that they sent into, I'm not sure whether it was Pakistan or someplace that he was hiding.
It was Pakistan.
Yeah.
They killed him in Pakistan, yes.
Yeah. So, but this is sort of giving him a second life online. So people are starting to rediscover the letter, and it's, and then of course the craziest thing is, as people start to rediscover the letter, there's attempts to censor it again. And so, James, maybe you could bring up the visual here real quick. So here's a Reuters article that talks about TikTok was trying to essentially hide this letter. So people were on TikTok, and some of the TikTokers were realizing, hey, there's this letter and we have all this action going on in Palestine. And guess what? That Osama bin Laden guy who knocked down the towers, he actually said in his letter to the United States that one of the reasons he did what he did was because we were supporting Israel and supporting what they consider to be the occupation of Palestine. And so that has generated a lot of people that were sort of finding some, I guess, sympathy, I guess, is the best way to say it, with some of Osama bin Laden's complaints. Now, so the crazy thing is, they were directing people to a post that The Guardian had put up back in, I think it was around 2002, where they had the letter there. And so The Guardian started seeing all these people were going to their site. And so they actually pulled the letter. So they saw people, hey, people are reading stuff on our site. Well, we can't have that. We're a news agency. What the hell? So they pulled the letter, and they said, well, we don't think this should be there without context. And which one is this? Okay, so this is, oh, darn it, I don't have that link up. But there is an actual link to the letter that was pulled on the site, and I'll see maybe if I can find that later in the show while we're talking. But anyways, this is the full context, and you could see you have to go to the web archive to find this now. So because the Guardian has hidden it. So this is something that you have to go to the archive if you want to be able to actually read the letter. And I mean, imagine that, a news agency hiding news. It's just incredible. And of course, TikTok, one of the biggest social media entities out there as well, trying to hide searches for letter to America. So this is kind of disturbing stuff. Now, just to give you a little bit of background about the letter, like I said, Osama does sort of he says, you attacked us in Palestine right here. So that's one of the issues where he's saying that this is why we were attacking. And I think that's why so many people are interested in this letter now, because there's a lot of people who are marching with pro-Palestinian causes, and we'll talk about that a little later in the show as well, about what's going on the campuses. But he also talks about the fact that we've got military bases in all of these Islamic countries as well, that he considers us to be occupiers in a lot of those places. And we've certainly talked about that. We've got over 750 military bases around the world, almost 200,000 soldiers. And, some of these complaints, they do sound like if we were on the other side of that, as Ron Paul has said, maybe we wouldn't quite, see ourselves as such, I guess, necessarily absolute good guys in all of this as well, too. But there are some ugly things as well in this letter, too. He talks about in the part 2, he gives he says that there's 2 parts, and he says, why did we attack you, and what do we want you to do, and of course, and what does he want us to do? Well, he wants us all to accept Islam. He wants to, essentially end homosexuality. He wants to do, essentially he's got all these ideas on how we should be living, and if we don't live that way, that's also one of the reasons why he's attacking us. So let's not see Osama as some paragon that, hey, this guy's just anti-military and he wants peace. He has his own authoritarian ideas on how the world should live too. But anyways, that's sort of the controversy. What do you guys think about this? Just a whole new round of censorship and over kind of a not so good guy whose ideas are coming back to light again.
Well, the premise of Osama bin Laden's letter is garbage, quite frankly. Okay, we do have military bases all over the place. We do, but we are there invited by those countries that host us. So I don't know what this nonsense is about to start with. Number one, if you have a problem, you really have a problem with the government that are hosting the military bases. That's his problem. That's where he should direct his anger and his energy to start with. Number one. Number two, about the censorship of the letter. Now that is a bunch of nonsense also. So what? Okay, Osama bin Laden wrote this letter. So why we can't read it? It was available back then. Well, I guess there was some attempt to suppress it. But we were able to see it. I think I read excerpts of it at one point in time. And okay, fine, for whatever strange, diabolical reason, it's now get a resurgence. So what? Let's read it. Let's make up our minds. This is information. I don't think much about the information, but it is information. Everybody should be able to see it and make up their mind about whether it's about Osama bin Laden, whether it's about the current Israeli-Hamas situation. We should be able to make up our minds our own. We are not children. And this is what these censors are trying to do to us. Now, I hope the U.S. government is not involved in this rounds of censorship. I haven't heard anybody say that as yet. But, you always have to be suspicious. Whenever you're seeing censorship, you always have to be suspicious because you never know who's behind that little dark curtain, trying to probe and push the social media companies to do this and to do that and to do the other. I don't want them involved. But let the information be out there. Let everybody see it. And I have no problem with that. But this thing about the U.S. bases and all that, that's a bunch of nonsense. We are there because the governments invite us to be there. And if you're angry about it, be angry at the governments who invited us.
And if you want to hear Tim's response, hold on. We have to leave you on public access. We're about that time in the show, but we will continue this conversation online. So tune in there, and you can catch us.
I'm being censored.
Well, you can catch us at Rumble, Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube, and you can hear Tim's exciting response, inflamed response to Leon that's coming, and also see a lot of other interviews we've done with a lot of other interesting people as well. So catch us there, public access crowd. So go ahead, Tim.
I'll be taking deep breaths in the meanwhile. Holding it in, letting it out slowly, calming myself down. No. So you're familiar with the term blowback, right, Leon? And who invented it? Blowback?
Yeah, I'm familiar with blowback. I mean, who invented it? I don't know who invented it, but yes, I'm familiar with blowback. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a term that was first utilized by the CIA in reference to the idea of, why countries that we have attacked in the past will attack us, and then based on blowback, in other words, a response to our original aggression towards them. So you're familiar with that? Okay. So you have no interest, or sounds to me like you kind of poo-poo the mastermind of a large attack on the United States, writes an explanation of why he did that, and you don't think that's important news? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think on what basis I don't think this basis for attacking the United States is valid. I don't.
Oh, I see. Okay, so he writes the explanation, and you don't think that it's a valid, the explanation of attacking us is not good enough to really attack us.
Well, he claims, well, Tim, look at what he's claiming in the letter, that we are attacking the Palestinians, or however, I don't know how you phrase it, I don't remember the exact wording, because we support Israel. Mm-hmm. But his problem really is true, is his hatred for the presence and the existence of Israel. That is his problem. But we support Israel, so all of a sudden we becomes his enemy. How?
Well, because of the attacks on his, the different countries that we've conducted over the past.
Okay, like who?
You mean prior to all the invasion of Iraq and all that, right?
Prior to the invasion of Iraq, who did we attack?
I don't know. Who did you say in the letter?
Well, his main contention in the letter, if I remember it correctly, was the fact that we are attacking the Palestinian people. Well, I don't know if that's how he phrased it, but we are attacking the Palestinian people by supporting Israel, which is what we do.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well,
that's a big part of it. He also talks about the fact that we're in a lot of Islamic countries, and we have a lot of outsized impact on who's in control in the Middle East.
Just to note, at the invitation of those countries.
I was going to ask you about that. Do we have a base in Syria? Yes or no?
We have a presence in Syria. I don't know if we actually have a base in Syria.
It was recently attacked, and we retaliated. There was missile attack from people in Syria, and we retaliated with an attack on them recently.
Well, do we have a base in? I don't think we have a base in Syria. No, I know we have a presence here, but I don't know if we have a base in Syria. Do we?
Okay, what's the difference? I mean, we have a presence there. Were we invited by Syria to be present in Syria?
At one time, we must have been. We could not be there otherwise.
No, we have never been invited into Syria.
Then, Tim, you are saying that the United States government invaded Syria, and that never happened.
Yes, it did. I mean, our presence, if we have a presence in Syria, we are in Syria. It's like, and yes, we do have a base there, a base of operations out of Syria. I don't know, unless my news sources are all flawed. I mean, yeah, we do have a base in Syria. That's the one that got attacked recently, and then we retaliated.
Okay.
So, and Syria never invited us. Syria's, Assad in Syria is connected with Russia and Iran and all that. They're Shia. There's predominantly Shia. And so they associate with Iran and by proxy, in a sense, with Russia. So there's no way we were ever invited into the current regime's Syria, And there's others too. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there are numerous. And a lot of these bases can be just one or two people or whatever. Some of them are small when you add up to 750, but there's a lot of them that aren't. And there's, there are a lot of countries where we'll just go in there and set something up.
We don't do that, Tim. We don't do that. But let me ask you something. How long this base or the operation, whatever? How long have it been in Syria? How long?
I think only in the past 7 or 8 years, if my memory serves. Yeah.
You mean since the Syrian government have shrunk its influence in Syria? Is what they're saying?
I don't know. Did it shrink did the Syrian government shrink its presence in Syria?
Well, there are certain parts of what was originally called Syria that the Syrian government does not control right now, as we speak.
I don't know.
Apparently, there is a base in Syria called Al-Tanf, I guess, and it says it's a U.S. military base. I haven't really dug in to see what the size of it is or anything.
How long have it been there?
Let me see here. This is just Wikipedia stuff, but it says established in 2016. So that's when the base came in there.
So I said about 7 years, and boom, 16.
But we could not have just gone in there without some invitation by someone.
Why not? Did we?
Then you say we had an invasion of Syria, and we had no such thing.
Well, here's something.
Or Iraq, where we ever invited there.
Well, let me jump in here real quick. So this is just something Wikipedia says, and take it for what it's worth. As we know, Wikipedia certainly got a lot of lefty propaganda in it nowadays. But under legality, they say the government of Syria deems the U.S. military presence in Al-Tanf illegal and considers the presence of Turkish and U.S. troops on its territory as an aggression and demands immediate and unconditional withdrawal of foreign forces from its territory. So that's just something in a Wikipedia article. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, how would we like it if China set up a base in the middle of Texas somewhere? The same thing.
On what basis would they do that?
Well, I don't know. The basis that they were, if they had hegemony over the entire world and could do whatever they want, whenever they want, wherever they wanted, like the United States does, and that's what we do. We push ourselves around. We want to set up a base in Syria. We'll set up a base in Syria. It's just we're the biggest, toughest bully on the block by far, and so we'll do whatever we want to whoever we want. So
I don't think the United States can do whatever they want. I mean, we have done some bad things in the world. I would agree with that much, but I don't think they can do whatever they want.
Well, they do. They don't need a congressional declaration of war. We've been working off that stupid War Powers Act for decades now. I mean, that's the broadest.
The authorization for military force, not the
AUMF, correct? Yes. Yeah, it's part of the War Powers Act. But anyway, the AUMF. That was just a specific thing for a specific time against a specific enemy. Yeah. But they've used that as a get out of jail free card to go wherever they want. And we have. We weren't invited into Iraq by Saddam. We weren't invited into.
No, that was an invasion. We know that was an invasion. That was an invasion. Okay.
Was there a congressional declaration of war? No. The last declaration of war was World War II, December 8th, 1940.
That's semantics now. We get into semantics. We had an authorization for military force to the use of the United States military force overseas. We have a declaration of war. They are one and the same thing. We're just talking semantics here.
I don't think
they are both. Whoa, 1 second. They are both acts of Congress, and Congress continue to fund it. Okay? So I don't know how we can make this distinction. Well, we didn't raise our hands and say it was a declaration of war, or we only had this authorization to use military force in a foreign land. What is the difference?
Yeah, maybe there isn't any difference, and that's the main point, is that we can go do whatever we want. Why? Not because we're necessarily strictly by the letter of the constitutional law that they're supposed to follow, but we make up these little. The thing is 66 words, one page, and it's back. It was written back in 2001, and it's specifically addressing people that were involved in the attack in 2001 or 9/11, and so that is so loosely now. They're still using it. They're still using it to go wherever they want because Congress gets out of doing anything. They don't have to sit there and debate it. They just put it in the lap of the president, whoever the commander in chief is at the time, and he gets to do what he wants. And so this is the crux of the problem.
Well, as a moderator, and I'll have to jump in on this one, sort of as the peacemaker in this sort of Israel-Palestine debate that you guys ginned up here. It's almost like a war that I'm jumping in. And that's all wars. There's a casualty. We're going to have to drop one of our topics. And I know Tim has to get out of here soon. So,
Well,
yeah.
I can stay a little longer.
Okay. Well, let's we'll drop the sort of the censorship on the meme stuff, and we'll take that to next week. But in a highly related stuff, let's talk about what's going on college campuses on this issue. So not only, and by the way, before we get to that, James, can you pull up the visual? This is the visual of the removed letter from The Guardian. Here it is, removed document. It says this page previously displayed the document containing in translation the full context of Osama bin Laden's letter to the American people, which was reported on the Observer, or in the Observer rather, on Sunday 24th, November 2002. So it took them over a year to put that out, from when it actually, happened. Anyways, this is it's saying the transcript published on our website had been widely shared on social media without full context. So they're essentially saying they need to condition this for you because you're too dumb to figure it out on your own. Therefore, we decided to take it down and direct readers instead to the news article that originally contextualized it. So unless you see their interpretation, your shepherd's interpretation, then this isn't for you apparently, and so they pulled down the original text. Anyways, let's jump on to the issue of what's going on college campuses. So this particular article is a Fox thing, and it's saying, okay, look, there's a lot of anti-Semitism going on, and it's all tied to the same issue that we talked about in the Osama letter. People are protesting who are Palestinian supporters, and they tend to be a lot more passionate, I guess, maybe is the right word. I'm not sure, but some of them to the point where they, are, I guess, trampling on some of the rights of the Israeli voices on the campus as well. And so this is an article from Fox talking about that. You can see here's some a picture here that they have where it talks about from the rivers to the seas, Palestine will be free, which essentially says is code for get rid of the state of Israel. And
not only get rid of the state of Israel, it's to get rid of the Jewish people.
Yeah, that's one. That's certainly an interpretation that a lot of people hold of that as well. There is, and there's even been issues like this editor of the Harvard Law Review. And by the way, Obama was also editor of the Harvard Law Review when he was there.
Yes.
So that's how prestigious that post is when you're a student at Harvard. And he was caught harassing Jewish student during an anti-Israeli protest. And essentially, we don't want to get into the whole video, but it shows them surrounding this guy who's clearly pro-Israel and not letting him walk where he wants to walk, and just sort of bullying him around and screaming at him that he should be ashamed of himself and other stuff like that. So anyways, that's what's going on there. And there's a video. You can go check that out on your own at the Post Millennial. But on the flip side of the coin, ACLU is jumping in on this, and some of the colleges are starting to ban some of these pro-Palestinian groups from having their demonstrations. And some of this is potentially because they're breaking the rules on these campuses, in the sense that I guess they're saying, well, you have to schedule these and all that, and they're just popping up at random. So that seems to be one of the major complaints on this. But anyways, places like Florida have banned this in their colleges, and some other colleges outside of Florida have also banned it, and the ACLU is jumping in on this. So what do you guys think about this issue? It's maybe Palestinians over aggressively shouldering out Israeli voices, so kind of a censorship there, but then the college is turning around and maybe censoring Palestinian voices. So it sounds like everybody wants to silence each other. I don't know. What do you guys think about this one?
Well, I am all for free speech, and I want everybody to have a voice, whatever side they fall on. There are some cases, I mean, I find the side which some people fall quite despicable, but I don't think they should be silenced. However, what we are seeing going on the campuses now is not only people peacefully protesting. That's not what's going on. Some of it is extending into violence, sometimes on the campus, sometimes off the campus. You just talk about the bullying. That's just one of many examples that are going on in the campuses right now. And not only that, these campuses have a long history with anti-Semitism. They do. We can't deny it. During the reign in Nazi Germany, they were very friendly with the Nazis. They invited some of them to their campuses. They went to visit Hildenberg or wherever it was, conferences about Nazis' logic and Nazis' ideology and all these sort of things. So that dark history is now rearing its ugly head on the campuses. And we have people talking about, when you see people talking about from the river to the sea on a campus, that is not just talking about a peaceful resolution to the issue between the Palestinians and the Jewish people. That's not talking about annihilating a state and annihilating the people within that state. So even though I am very leery of censorship, when you have people inciting violence, I think we got to do something about it. And this is a real problem on the campuses.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
we agree on this, Tim. Oh my God!
Wow. Yeah, don't fall off your chair. But yeah, I probably more frequently agree with Leon than disagree with him. It's just that once in a while disagreements come up. That's part of the game. But yeah, because excellent point. It's for peaceful protesting, not for violent protesting. And
exactly.
When it turns violent, it's time to stop it. However you want to do it, and they have a responsibility to stop violence like that. If it's happening on their campus, they have a responsibility then to make sure it stops. So I get it. And you want to make your point, and I don't have any problem with the Nazi Hindenburg coming over here spewing Nazi stuff if a university wants to have them, as long as it's just a peaceful talk, and they can talk about their nonsense, all they want, and then is Harvard the one that has this reputation, Leon?
No, nearly all of the Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all of them have this history of. I don't think the University of Pennsylvania was mentioned, to be honest, but all of them. Most of them, I say, have this dark history with Nazism.
Yeah, and so anytime some kind of an anti-freedom group comes along, they love it. They love it all. They hate freedom, is what they hate. They really love totalitarian dictatorships and top-down central planning. I mean, that's what they're all about, and always will be. So anyway, there you go.
Leon,
at least Tim and I found some level of agreement on this point.
Well, let me risk throwing just a little bit of a wrench into that disagreement. And I don't know if this will or not, but Leon, I just wanted one clarification. So when you talked about, I guess, the protesters shouting from the river to the sea, and that be the annihilation of the Jews in Israel, is that itself, in your mind, a direct call to violence at that time, that therefore they should be banned? Or is it only if they're literally threatening people around them at that moment?
Well, I think, okay, it is well understood that when we hear that statement, from the river to the sea, that is from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, and they say Palestine will be free. So if Palestine will be free, it must be free of what? It will be free of the state of Israel. It must be free of the Jewish people. That is a call to violence. So yes, if that expression is being turned around on campuses anyway, I think that's a problem. And I think we should probably do something about that, quite frankly.
I guess I would just push back on that one part then.
Think about, I'm sorry, what did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I would just push back on that one part then, because I think we have to be able to allow people to say essentially that they don't like some people and that they wish they were gone, that kind of a thing. That has to be allowed in free speech. Otherwise, it just, to me, that seems like it's too far pushing into free speech if we say that, these people, depending upon how you interpret what from the river to the sea means, suddenly that is something where they can't be free to say that because it could be interpreted as a call to violence. To me, that just seems like that's stepping too far onto free speech, especially if it's not exactly clear. If like they were chanting "kill all Jews now," I would absolutely agree with you, and they should stop that. But if they're saying "from the river to the sea," that just has a lot of potential connotations, and I'm not even sure half of those brain dead protesters even know what it means. So,
let me ask you a question. Let me just ask you a hypothetical question. Supposing we had an all-white campus, an all-white student campus group on campus waving flags that says "time for more lynchings, time for more lynchings." Would you think that should be permissible?
Yeah, I think if it was clear that lynching meant that they wanted to lynch people now and it wasn't just some figure of speech, I would say, they've got to stop that. That sounds like a direct call for violence. If they said, make the South great again, right? I'm not sure that I would. I mean, I would say, well, you might be able to connotate that some people think that means more lynchings, but I don't think you could say that that's what everybody who thinks make the South great again means have more lynchings. Therefore, I don't think you could stop freedom of speech on that. I guess that's the way I would say it.
So more lynchings would not. You don't think you think. If that is all they were saying, okay? I'm just saying, all they were saying, you think that should be permissible? That should be permitted?
Well, I guess again, it comes into context. I guess what it means. If it's very clear that it's, hey, we want violence now, then I think you absolutely would have to put a stop to it. But if it's some vague term that's not clear what it means, like I said, because from the river to the sea is not actually saying kill all Jews, right? I mean, we can agree on that is not the direct words, right? It could be interpreted in different ways. And certainly some of the people probably mean that who say it, but that doesn't mean that that's everybody who means it that says it.
So what do they mean then, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free? What does that mean then?
Well, they may just mean eliminate the state and that they don't want to see Jews in government there controlling their land. That it doesn't necessarily mean that all of them think that there should be an extermination. Now, I'm sure some of them probably think that, but that doesn't mean that they all do, in which case should we eliminate speech that's vague when some people that means a bad thing, but not everybody it means a bad thing.
You don't think black students will be intimidated by more lynchings? If a all-white student walking across campus saying that, you don't think they'll feel intimidated by it?
They probably would be, but like I said, I think more lynchings is probably a lot closer. The analogy is saying make the South great again. I think that would be a lot closer to Palestine free from the river to the sea is probably a lot closer to if you were saying make the South great again. That's probably how a lot of people would interpret that, hey, this could be a lot of things that these people mean, right? Some people just mean, hey, I love the Confederacy. And some people mean, hey, more lynchings now. Right? So.
I will confess and concede there's some we are in a real gray area of the whole belief in free speech. We're in a gray area here because it could be interpreted. You're right. It could be interpreted in many ways, but I think the general interpretation of from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. They mean they'll be free of something. Okay.
Sure.
Right. And what is that? Free of the state of Israel and free of the Jewish people, because there are a lot of people. Now I can't say every single person. There are a lot of people on the Palestine side of this argument who do not believe, who believe that the Jewish people have no right to be anywhere in Israel today. There's a lot of people who believe that. And that is why they have this expression, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah.
I will concede that we're in a gray area. I will concede that. Okay, I really will. Okay.
Well, speaking of gray areas, let's talk about the vibrancy of San Francisco and what's going on there. So recently, the dictator from China, President Xi, was coming to visit his fellow dictator Gavin Newsom in California. So as all good dictators do, they like to roll out the red carpet. And so we know, anybody who's lived near San Francisco just knows what kind of how terrible the streets have become. I mean, they literally have to hire people as human poop patrols to walk around at about 100,000 a person and pick up poop right off of the street. I mean, human waste, because that's the way we do things now in San Francisco. In fact, more human poop is coming in and more businesses are leaving San Francisco. So that's kind of what's going on there. And they've just got a lot of homeless out there in the streets. And so it's been kind of crazy. Anybody who's been around there has just seen this develop over the last few decades, where it's just gotten worse and worse. And quite frankly, a lot of major cities in California have become that way, and a lot of bluetopias around the country as well, but especially in San Francisco. And so Gavin Newsom, even though they couldn't solve this problem for the residents of San Francisco, when the fellow dictator came, Gavin Newsom rolled out the red carpet and cleaned it all up. And then he admitted that, the reason we cleaned it up is because my buddy Xi was coming. So, anyways, let's roll the clip real quick, and we can see this is a Knucklehead KNP clip, James.
I know folks say, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true. But it's also true, for months and months and months prior to APEC, we've been having different conversations.
So it's true because it's true. He can clean up San Francisco when his buddy Xi comes, but he can't do it for the people who actually pay his salary. People who, and by the way, too, as much as they've tried to clean it up, there was also, maybe I can get the visual on this, James. Could you pull it up? So here is the Newsweek article. Gavin slammed for only cleaning up San Francisco for Xi Jinping, but there was actually a foreign news crew that was mugged at gunpoint and had all of their equipment taken from them. And they were there. This was before the conference happened. And they were just robbed at gunpoint. And the mayor, London Breed, who's, just tried to blame Walgreens for why all their stores were being robbed. And they were taking off out of there. They were essentially just saying, well, yeah, we sympathize with you and we're behind you all the way. Yeah, well, it'd be great if you actually did something to stop all of this terrible crime in San Francisco and just chaos that is just it's just decaying San Francisco. But anyways, what do you guys think of this? This just seems.
My first question is, why is the governor of a state spending state funds, assumably, to clean up a city? I mean, should that be the mayor's deal, that he should be in charge of and utilize city coffers for that? Why is the state governor doing that?
And by the way, Tim, she was behind him in the conference, so London Breed was standing there. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, okay, but yeah, I don't get that part of it. Why should my state tax money be spent on one city? That should be the responsibility of that city to clean its own self up with their own funds. That's my first question. And that's all I have. How about you, Leon? Do you have any questions about that?
Well, I mean, give Gavin a break here. I mean, one of his friends, one of his petty dictator friends, is coming to town. Why shouldn't he give his best picture? Why shouldn't he put his best foot forward? I mean, he went to China and ran over one of the poor man's kids down there. You know, China own all of the children. The government of China own all of the kids in China. He ran over the poor kids. So then he just did a favor. You know, he just tried to make San Francisco great again for his friend the dictator. So give the guy a break, man. You know, give the guy a break. You know, the guy's a good guy. What could I say? You know,
I don't know. I'm a stickler, I guess.
Yes, I was just hoping that he would make San Francisco great again, and then go live in China and you know, let us have a chance here in California. You know.
Yeah.
Well, Leon, you mentioned he's a petty dictator, and he's the big kahuna for this crowd. I mean, they all want to be him. Right?
It's true.
I mean, we did talk about that last week on the Knucklehead Noise Patrol. That was Gavin's visit over to China preceding this, where he decided he needed to muscle some little kids in a game of basketball.
Yeah.
And now he's singing, not if I could be like Mike, but if I could be like Xi. I want to be like Xi. Well, yeah, I don't know. That was a reference to the old Jordan Gatorade commercial. The way that I butchered, but anyway. Yeah. Well, yeah. maybe that's the new Brondo or Gatorade, the drink of dictators. Be like Xi. I don't know.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think that's about the end of our show today. I'd like to thank you for joining us, and go check us out online. You can find our stuff at Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Spotify. We've got a lot more shows archived there. You can see us talking to different people who are organizing in their areas or around the country for liberty-oriented stuff. We've interviewed libertarian presidential candidates, both past and present. And a lot of other interesting people who are carrying the torch for liberty right now. And if you have any ideas too, where you're working in your community and you'd like to talk about it on our show, try and reach out to us there. You can go to knuckleheadsofliberty.com, and I think we have a email address there as well that you can submit those to. But until the next show, think about what you can do in your neighborhood and see how you can contribute to the fight for liberty. Be like Malay, not Xi. That's all I gotta say. So, thanks again for joining us, and until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.